We're seeing price increases across the board at the moment, and unfortunately it's due, pork has gone through a massive price increase because of swine flu, and we found out at a recent QSR conference from Vanessa Barnes from Australian Pork has just told us that pork prices will remain quite high for probably up to 2 years as we deal with this massive shortage of product in the pork area, which means all pork prices, bacon, ham, sausages, salami, have gone up quite considerably, and that's a global trend. China's demand is still growing for pork, and Australians are also very prolific pork producers. So it's one of those products which it's unfortunately it's a symbolic of a desire for more wealthy products, and those sort of products are very much in the QSR market. So I don't think there's an outlet that can actually live without bacon these days. It's a very common product, and so what you're finding then is other products are getting more demand. So you'll push more demand onto chicken, onto beef, onto lamb, and even goat. And so what you then do is you'll then increase those prices as well, because the demand of those starts to increase. Grain prices directly affect chicken. So chicken feed, basically grain, has also gone up as well. So we were looking at pasta from Italy and pasta prices for the first time in ages. I haven't seen this before, where pasta price can go up by about 20%. And I've never seen pasta go on that big a rise in such a short space of time. But that pasta is made from semolina or semola, we call it in Italian, and so that's used to feed, if you like, chickens and generally poultry as well. So a lot of the poultry prices are rising, probably not by as much as the other proteins. It still remains the preferred protein because it's the cheapest and probably the most expandable as well in a lot of areas. But even beef and cattle is a real problem. The drought causes enormous problems in Australia as well. QSRs obviously look at the favourite of QSR is a portion control alternative. Also, if you like, looking at meat alternatives, which I know we've got a lot of interest in, the Beyond Burgers and things like that of this world. And I think there's a lot of alternatives in terms of meat alternatives, but also looking at portion control, looking at ways they can re-engineer their dishes to focus on primarily a vegan or a vegetarian option, and then adding protein at the end. And so the protein becomes the plus, if you like. Much in the same way they used to use our jalapenos or our sliced olives as, would you like extra, you'll have to pay for that. They might actually say, well, if you want that extra, there's actually a really very clever pasta chain, a spaghetti chain in Newtown, which actually then you can add prawns, but it'll cost you an extra $5 to add the prawns. So they've actually got a very cheap base product, but if you add prawns to your pasta, then you're actually upping the price by a lot. So they've actually worked it out, work with a cheap ingredient and add the proteins as an add-on. So the base product is actually quite cheap. But when you do your pluses, and McDonald's did that very well, let's be honest. McDonald's did this very, very well by ordering your own, because of course everyone wants to design their own burger. By the time you've got it, the price of a Big Mac is completely out of the question, because you've just designed a gourmet burger, which is probably going to cost you $12 or $13. But it's got your own personal sort of, if you like, your own personal innovation inside it. So that's what QSR operators can do. What else can they do to mitigate sort of costs? I'm not sure. There's not much they can do on the labour cost. They do tend to look for cheaper, more portion control. Portion control is an interesting area because I spoke to a restaurateur that was doing functions, like 200 or 300 people functions, and they were getting different size meat, and they actually paid more for their meat, but more portion control. So what they were doing was eliminating the labour of cutting the meats, and everything was the same. So they're paying higher price per kilo, but less wastage and less problems to do with what the offcuts are.